Welcome to the Afterspin, opinions from thought leaders in our state. I want to ask John Hood and Chris Fitzsimon. Last Tuesday, Pennsylvania held an unusual congressional election in which a district which has been heavily Republican for many years, Democrat Conor Lamb narrowly defeated the Republican. We want to know your reactions to that election and what you think it might mean to North Carolina. Chris Fitzsimon, I'll start with you.
Well, if folks think that there's some sort of a Democratic wave coming, this certainly gives them evidence. The Republicans are trying to spin it as if Conor Lamb ran as a Republican. Only 2 days before the election, they were saying he was a pawn of Nancy Pelosi, and he was an extremist Democrat. He did run against the tax cut that the Republican Congress passed. He ran for universal health care coverage. He ran for more support for the labor unions, especially in Pennsylvania. I think this was...
but supported AR-15s.
But also supported universal background checks, which is something the NRA doesn't support. So the interesting thing to me is the question is this did he win support of Republicans, or is this a vote against Trump? And that's the question. You know, President Trump went there the Saturday before and said he was going to help him across the finish line. He would win easily because he came for him, and he didn't win. I think the big fear in Republicans isn't even about whether it's Republicans or Democrats, is a referendum on President Trump and the chaos that continues in the White House going to sink them in November of 2018.
So how does that translate to North Carolina?
Well, we have an election in 2018 for Congress. We have General Assembly elections. We have elections up and down the ballot.
So what's your prediction?
I think that the Democrats were already going to have a victory. The question is the size of it. This portends it'll be larger than some people think.
John Hood, you've been saying, wait a minute, before we start the Happy Days Are Here Again theme song for the Democrats, we better hold on. What's your reaction to this election?
I don't think we should play that song still. I mean, there are many other songs.
You never did like that song, did you?
That's okay. I like some other songs from that era more. What I would say about this very simply is if Democrats run a lot of candidates like this young man in Pennsylvania, who certainly ran on some traditional Democratic themes, but also was culturally conservative in many ways, and that was very evident in the advertising and in the messaging. If they run a lot of those candidates, sort of like Democrats did in 2006, they'll have a nice year for them, a good blue wave. There are some of those candidates on the ballot in North Carolina, but not very many. And the party has changed quite a bit, even in the last 10 years. So I think it is still possible Democrats will have a good year, have a lot of opportunities, but leave some of them on the table because their candidates are too left-wing.
Are you saying that the further left the Democrats' candidates get, the less likely they are to win?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Well, we've already had the filing done, so...
Part of that, though, is not just what the candidates are, it's how they're framed by their opponent. I mean, Conor Lamb was literally described...
Or how they frame themselves.
Well, right, but the Republicans tried to attack him as being left-wing, and I mean, part of this
and
is
it
how...
didn't work because he isn't.
Well, but he's far more progressive than his opponent, and far more progressive than traditional Republicans. He's for universal health care and opposed the tax cut, for example. Those are hardly Republican positions to take on issues. So my point is that I don't disagree necessarily with what John's saying, but candidates define themselves, but they're also defined by their opponent if they allow themselves to be, and that's a big issue that's going to decide how it's going to go.
I asked Chris, what's your overall feeling about the impact in North Carolina?
This is just one of many, many signals. We have congressional districts that probably aren't as vulnerable for the Republicans as this one was for a variety of reasons. It was an open seat, which is an important distinction. But yes, Republicans should be very concerned about any midterm election when your president of your party in the White House is unpopular. That's just bottom line political science.
Well, one prediction I will make is that NC Spin will be talking about it between now and November. Well, thank you for watching the After Spin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.